Hey everyone, Jamie Lee here from BirdTricks, and today I want to talk to you about a little technique that is very universal for all animals, but especially amazing with birds, called targeting or touch training. It's basically where you teach a bird to put one part of its body and touch it to an object. Usually this is most commonly seen with touching their beak to the end of a target stick like this, and then you follow it up with a treat. Now, this is a clicker that you would usually use and you would pair all that stuff, cool stuff together. But I have big news for you guys who have either never done this before or are struggling with trying to implement it and have given up too easily. You don't have to use a stick and it doesn't have to be the bird's beak. So you can use other things. So before I get started in this video, I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you've already trained your bird to touch train or target train, please let me know what type of bird you have and what your target is, because it can be different and it might be really helpful for somebody who has the same type of bird as you to read what worked for you and try to do it at home. So make sure you share that information in the comments and like and subscribe if you haven't already and you enjoy bird info. All right, so the main reason that I love touch training is that it's a hands-off technique. You don't have to worry about getting bit, and the bird doesn't worry about having to feel the need to bite you to communicate that you are being a bad human. So let's talk about why this is a good thing. This is a good thing because it puts you both in a more relaxed state to actually work together. You don't have to be high-strung and worried about, can the bird bite me from here? Is it gonna just turn around and get me from there? Is it gonna be mad about the presence of my hand? This is hands-off. It has nothing to do with your hands. It's more about the object of the target and the object that you're using as far as part of the bird's body. So, usually it's very easy to teach a bird to target with its beak because that's what they explore with. They're most likely to check things out with their beak, so that's kind of what's easiest. Whereas you see dogs, normally they're trained to target with their nose, same with dolphins, same with horses, anything that might sniff something to kind of explore what that is. So you don't have to use the beak, but it is most common because it usually is the easiest. Now with large animals like elephants or tigers or things like that in zoos, you'll often see them teach these animals to target with their behinds and put it up against a fence or put part of their body up against the wall so that they can do these type of exams or injections or things like that. So you'll see zoos and animal parks get really creative with this technique based on what they have to do with the animals there. But with birds, and since I focus on birds, I want to keep it down there, but I want to tell you guys that it is a universal technique and it's used for so many good things. I know it doesn't sound really fancy to get your bird to touch the end of the stick and it seems really dull and stupid, but it's not. It's one of your foundations for training your bird and it can help in so many aspects. It teaches the bird to go to point A, from point A to point B. So point B is the target. This means that you can get your bird back into the cage without using toweling or any sort of cruel techniques of trying to scare your bird back into the cage. You can get your bird back into the cage nicely. You can get your bird out of the cage great and very hands-off again. And you can even use target training to go further into flight training. So you can actually teach a bird to fly through just using target or touch training. So it's a really amazing technique that I absolutely love. Here, hold on a second. And then can you come up here? Good job. Here, just to get him in and out of the cage. You did it, Blue. You gotta come over here. Probably my favorite thing about touch training is that it allows you to get to know your bird, or your animal in that case. I was gonna say animal, but it allows you guys to get to know each other in kind of a safe environment where you aren't worried too much about what the other one is doing. You get to learn their body language and they get to learn yours and get some positive reinforcement in the meantime. So it's a really, really cool and fun training technique and one of your foundational tools that I like to teach early on so I can see people use it in a variety of ways. Right. Oh, let's start over. Blueberry. Blue. There you go. Okay, now hold up your hand with, so give me the treat. Hold up your hand with the target behind it. Blue. Back up your hand. I want him to fly to you.
What do you want? Pew!
There you go. Can you do that again?
Blueberry.
One more time.
I'm going to kiss him. Oh, you must be first. Blueberry.
Okay, so some of the uses that I wrote down for getting a bird to target train and what the benefits are would be crate training. So if your bird has been scared of a crate prior, you can use target training to crate train your animal. Now, this is often used for horses who are scared of going into trailers. Once you ask them to target, you're no longer asking them to go into a scary trailer, you're asking them to do something they're already confident doing, which is touching the end of a target. So the behavior becomes almost like this mental misdirection of, hey, just touch the target. It happens to be in the trailer, but the animal is just kind of conditioned of, oh, I know how to do that behavior. I'm willing to do that. I know that I get a positive reinforcement after it. I get my favorite treat reward. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and they just don't even mind that the trailer's there. I've also seen this come into use with my business as far as birds getting out when they weren't meant to get outside, getting stuck in trees, and they don't know how to fly down because they've never learned how to descend. Target training is a great way to be able to get your bird out of a tree by simply targeting them down branch by branch to get them out of the tree. So we've had a lot of clients do this because instead of being terrified about how to jump out of this tree and descend because they don't know how, they do know how to touch a target. And so it becomes, again, that mental misdirection of, I'm confident doing this behavior but not that one, but actually they end up kind of doing both, or they just climb down the tree branch by branch and come and get the target. It's also great for getting your bird on a scale. A lot of you say that your bird isn't tame enough to step up or come out on a scale. You can again use target training to get your bird where you need it to go. So training it to go onto a scale is awesome, and you can use target training as a means to do so. Let's do it again, one more time. Ready? Wait, no, Blue! Blueberry! Blueberry! Come here, Blue. Yeah, come over here. Good job. Oh my gosh, that was so impressive. Another one of my favorite uses for target training is the socialization aspect. Because it's a hands-off training technique and you guys are just more calm and cool and collected when you're using this technique, it's something that friends and family or people that just haven't been around birds and maybe they make them nervous, I know a lot of people like that, they can also use target training as a means to introduce themselves and say, hey, I speak the same language as you. But they're both getting a positive interaction out of it. So the more positive interactions you build with different people, the more social your bird will become and the more desensitized it'll become to different types of people. So it's a really great way to introduce socialization to your bird. Another thing is once you teach target training and your bird understands it 98 to 100%, it's a great lead-in to teaching other behaviors such as the spin, like I said before, flight training, and all sorts of more complex and more fun behaviors. It's also a great warm-up behavior. So I love target training because I can ask my bird to target train and see if they are even initially interested in interacting with me by doing a little what I call a warming up the bird. And this just means seeing if the bird will respond and is enthusiastic about a training session to easy behaviors. So asking targeting for that is a great way to get your bird into training mode and see if they want to interact and have a session with you. So the thing that I really want this video to accomplish is to encourage you not to give up so easily if you haven't already trained this behavior. Now, a lot of the times, what you can do that is the easiest is birds are naturally curious and are likely to touch the end of the stick because one, this is wood and wood is natural to them and they would naturally be chewing it up. Now, the big thing is that you don't want them to actually chew or bite this hard. You merely want them to touch it, which is why I often refer to it as touch training. That's to remind people it's just simply a touch. And it just tends to resonate with people a little bit more than a target. So A naturally curious bird will just come up and investigate with their beak like they would in the wild and naturally touch it. And when they do, you just follow it up with a treat. And soon they'll learn to anticipate when that treat is coming, because they'll make the connection that every time they touch the end of the stick, a cool little hefty treat is coming. Now, if your bird doesn't naturally take to just checking out the stick, if your bird has an irrational fear to sticks, maybe it had some really bad past history with sticks, if kids ever tormented them in the cage or did something that made it so that sticks are scary, you can try using a different object. I've had people use the butt of a pen. I've had people actually use a variety of different chopsticks because they make them a lot differently. I've had people use even skewers. You might be able to find a different object that you know your bird is not fearful of, and then slowly transition to one that is more ideal to use. So it doesn't have to be a stick. You can totally use something else. I've also seen really cool and nifty targets on Amazon where they're more metal, they're extendable, and some of them even have a ball on the end, which is really common with other types of animals to use that. So if you think that that's something that your bird would be more receptive to, try to set them up for success and use something you know will go over well. The other technique you can use for fearful birds is a little bit of luring. Now, luring, it's ideal to phase it out as quickly as possible because the animal's just following the food. It's not quite learning anything. So it's really important that you make that transition and you make that connection for the bird to understand what it's doing to actually earn the reward. But what you can do is hold a lure or a treat reward really close to the stick. And if they just happen to bump it when going for the treat, go ahead and give them the treat. And you're slowly gonna phase out the lure and try to bring it further and further away so that the animal finally understands that touching the stick is actually what gets the treat. And ideally, they perform this behavior without needing a treat in view at all. And that'll really tell you that they understand the behavior that is getting that reward. And that's what we want. We want birds to actually learn. We don't want them to just be mindlessly following food. So if you have an aggressive bird who's actually, you're listening to this and you're like, I have the opposite problem, my bird just wants to maul the target. What you can do is just get in a situation where you're set up for success again and you hold the target further away. So if you have a perch that's about this long, make sure that you come in with the target pretty far away. You can always come closer. And as they're reaching for it, make sure that you click and reward on the reach instead of the grab or instead of the touch. You never want the bird to actually be able to grab and just chew and break the stick. Less is more in this case. So if they're just reaching, I even worked with a hyacinth macaw whom I trained to touch the target with his tongue. So if you need to do something like that just to ensure a gentle touch, you can go ahead and do that. You just need to figure out what works for you and your bird, but holding it far enough away and then coming in slowly to where you know your bird can just barely reach is kind of the ideal way to work with aggressive birds. Also, you definitely want to find a target that they are least aggressive with. So as I said, you can shape it as far as holding it further away so that they cannot be aggressive with it. It's just not possible. But if you notice that your bird just has really extreme behavior response to whatever you're holding, you might want to try changing the target altogether. We worked with a macaw who unfortunately was mistreated with sticks and would not respond well to a stick in the presence at all. So we just put a ball on the end of it and that bird did fantastic with the ball. There was zero aggression there. So don't be afraid to use different objects that you find that your bird really responds better to. You want to set your bird up for success for this and really make sure that you're enabling a great training session.